Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, Teacher T will be servicing his front caliper on his Super Meteor 650 and also replacing my brake pads with brand new ones. In last week's video, we had an insightful discussion about brake pads, and since then I've received some fantastic comments from around the globe. So before we start today's tutorial, let's highlight some of the best comments we've had from last week's video. So the first comment comes from Ceccio from Italy. And he says the calipers of the Super Meteor 650 bear the inscription by Brie, which means by Brembo, meaning built by Brembo. That makes perfect sense. The brake pads are branded Brembo for that reason. Brembo opened a branch years ago in India. At 15,000 kilometer check, I paid 109 euros for the rear brake pads, a huge amount. I live in Bergamo, Italy, where Brembo's headquarters are located. I was told for the Super Meteor 650, the red Brembo pads 07BB04SP are ideal and less expensive. I paid 26 euros 59 cents and fitted them myself, which means that the high price for the original Royal Enfield brake pads is inexplicable. I have since found out myself and purchased Brembo pads from my local dealer. And these are for the front, and they are part number 07BB03SA. And thanks to John from Australia for pointing me in the right direction. Konstantinos from Greece recommends the SBS branded brake pads. He has fitted 674HS to his front and 671LS to his rear, and the cost was between 40 and 45 euros. So again, cheaper than those genuine Royal Enfield pads. David Benson has recommended EBC FA209/2HH pads for the front, around £28 on eBay UK. Rened from Germany says pads are sold out, no stock. And the same situation is here in Thailand. There's no stock. So A, I was protesting against the price, but B, I couldn't even get them anyway. It's like a 4 to 6 week waiting list. So all the pads that we've mentioned so far are sintered pads, and I'm not sure of the rating of the originals, so I presume they're sintered also, but it does say double H on the new pads that I've bought from Brembo, and it does say double H on the back of the originals as well. Michael says, no, don't use sintered pads. The better braking and longevity of the pads comes at a cost. The expense of 2 new discs. He says he could have bought cheaper replacement pads for life instead of the cost of the discs. He has got a point, but my discs have got no sign of wear on them whatsoever. So I'll be checking with a keen eye when I do fit these Brembo double H sintered pads. Robert from Canada argues in the other direction. He says more friction equals better braking, and discs are a replacement part just as much as the brake pads themselves if you want better braking. Again, he's got a point. And then that brings me on to my comment about my 70/30 braking. It looks like I've been doing it wrong all of these years. So quite a few of you pointed out to me, thanks to Alfie and Chirpy from the USA, and especially Dave from the UK. He sent me a lovely private email actually, which I'm going to read to you. He was very polite about it. I always enjoy watching your videos, but I wanted to touch on the issue of braking percentages without stirring up a hornet's nest on your channel. I am coming from the background of being a retired police instructor with 43 years of riding behind me. From reading the comments, I think you may have got confused between front and rear. If not, then whoever gave you that CBT training was completely wrong. It's straightforward physics, he says. Under braking, when upright and sat in a straight line on the bike, the weight is transferred to the front and the suspension dips, and the contact area of the front tyre increases with the pressure, providing a greater area of grip. Conversely, the rear suspension lifts up and reduces the area of the tyre. Therefore, applying harder pressure on the rear brakes increases the risk of loss of control of the rear wheel and the bike. 70% front has always been recommended because of the greater contact area, with 30% rear providing stability to keep the bike upright. Needless to say, in adverse road or weather conditions, or when leaning, these percentages need to be balanced out so that neither wheel is receiving excessive braking. I was only concerned that the comments might cause confusion, especially for less experienced riders. Keep up the content, it will be well received. So thank you, Dave, for being so polite about this. And yeah, I distinctly remember my CBT training advisor saying, if you skid on the rear wheel, you skid in a straight line, where if you skid on the front wheel, you've got the chance of it going out in front of you. So it looks like he taught me wrong, sadly. I will go with what the majority say, and I've since Googled it and researched it, and yeah, you're right, 70% front, 30% rear. So this is the reason I've bought some expensive pads. I've bought the expensive Brembo red pads from my local dealer. Sintered Brembo red pads. They are very rough to the touch, very abrasive. So I will be fitting these to my bike, but I will be keeping a close eye on my brake discs, because on my original Royal Enfield discs, I've got no wear at all so far. None at all. So if these start eating my discs, I will be taking them off. And since that, I've just received these in the post today. Thailand branded front discs. They're not AA rated, they're just organic pads, but they cost me less than €5. I think a future video will be me testing these pads against these pads. I'll be doing some speed braking and checking the difference in distances on braking. I think that would make quite a good video for a review, and see what the differences are. If these prove to be okay, maybe I'll start importing them to the UK. I could make some money, right? But anyway, from what people are saying, I am better off with the better branded pads. These did cost me a lot of money still in Thailand. They cost me 2,000 baht as opposed to the Royal Enfield 2,780 baht. Still, you know, they still cost me nearly €50 in Thailand, which is a lot of money compared to €5. So are they 10 times better? Are they going to last 10 times longer? We shall see. And today I must point out that this video is for entertainment value only. For essential servicing on your motorbike, you should always seek professional advice. The first thing we're going to do is put the motorbike on the center stand. I'm going to cheat and use my special piece of wood that aids me raise the bike. Because I'm wearing flip-flops today, it's a hot day. That raises the bike enough for me to easily put the bike on the center stand. Now we can work on the front brakes. This is our safety clip here for the brake pad removal. So we're just going to use a flat bladed screwdriver, put it behind the clip, put your thumb on top and just pull. We're just going to pull backwards and up, and the clip comes off. Then with a punch we can punch here and punch the pin out. Those brake pads will be released. There's the pin there. You can actually see the hole where the split pin fits in. I'm going to use a bit of brake cleaner. That pin seems to be a bit stuck there for some reason. There we go, that did it. Just a little bit of lubrication. Out she comes. I can remove this brake pad now. It'll just pull out. So here are our old brake pads. The only thing we have to do is remove the heat shield from the back of them. Before I do that, this is our 10 baht coin, our 2mm. You can see that's how I used it to measure. And if it went any lower, these tabs on the heat shield would start hitting our disc, you see. So this is why it's a good idea to change them before it's too late. So we're going to unclip these with a screwdriver. They're heat shields from what I understand. There we go. Actually, it says Brembo. It does say Brembo. Maybe that's why mine lasted as long as they did. So these two bolts that hold on the front caliper, I cannot undo. And from last week's comments, people have suggested that these could be held in with red Loctite. And the only way to undo that is to heat the bolts and then they will unscrew. The only reason I want to undo them and remove the caliper is to split the caliper, split it in half. But I can achieve that also by removing the front wheel, which is what I'm going to do because I want to service my front axle anyway, want to re-grease it. So if I remove the disc from between the caliper, then I can split the caliper. So that's what I'm going to do. And we also have to remove our front ABS. So it's unclipping the wire from here and a 6mm hex bolt, unscrew it and then twist and pull the ABS sensor out. Be very careful. This is very expensive. We do not want to damage this at all. And today I'm going to be using my modified car jack. Here's our normal car jack. I've modified one. I've welded a base plate to the bottom and the top, and then I've put a piece of wood on top. So I can use that for raising and lowering very heavy motorbikes, and it works a treat. So there's a top tip from Teacher T for you already. There we go. We're just going to put that under the sump where the oil plug is. There's a flat surface there to do it, and that is where the recommended Royal Enfield jacking point is for raising the front wheel, which is what we're going to do. There we go, that's my front wheel off the ground already. I can spin it. There we go. Doesn't take much. The front caliper should have freedom of movement in and out, and that's what centralizes your brake pads. But if it's stuck, if it's got dirt in here or whatever, or no lubrication, then the brake pads only work on one side, and this is how they wear out very quickly. So servicing your caliper is very important, especially when you're changing your brake pads. It's all a bit grubby as well, so another good reason to take off the front wheel. I can get in and clean everything. You can just see the pistons there, and the front forks. It all needs a good clean, and that axle will need a re-grease, especially at 15,000 kilometers. So yeah, let's give everything a good clean right now. And here is my ABS sensor, which fits in there. It needs a clean also. You can see the dirt that's in there. With the wheel and disc removed out the way, we can now split the caliper by just separating the rubbers by inserting a screwdriver and pushing. Now we can separate the caliper. I do appreciate it's not very good light in my garage, but hopefully you can see my two pistons. You can see the dirt on the outside of the pistons there. I can remove some of it with my thumbnail. It's very dirty. If I push those pistons in now, that dirt is going to transfer through the rubber seal and cause future problems for our caliper. So we really want to clean that before we reset and push these pistons back in, allowing for more room for our thicker brake pads. So we're going to do this by using proper brake cleaner, but I will press the brake here. You can see the pistons come out more. Hopefully you can see the pistons coming out. That enables me to clean them more actually. So I'm going to clean that with brake cleaner now. Please don't use anything apart from brake cleaner. Do not use oil, WD-40, anything like that, because that is not good for your brakes. This will just evaporate on contact and enable me to get a cloth in there and just rub it away and clean all the debris away from the pistons. Once everything is clean, then I can push the pistons back in. Actually, I'm going to force them out a little bit more just by applying the brake. There, can you see them coming out? Can you see that? you can see all the debris around the outside. It all needs to come off, because when I push that back in, that will break the seal, and that will affect longevity of your caliper. And I do question whether when you take your bike to a Royal Enfield dealer to have it serviced, are they just going to replace the pads, push the pistons back in without cleaning them to save time? Next customer, please move on. You know, this is why I prefer to do my own servicing, and that's always been part of my culture of riding a bike, is to service my own bikes. I've always done it. There, that's looking a lot cleaner. That's a lot cleaner now. Now, I don't mind pushing those pistons back in because there's no dirt to break the rubber seal. So to reset the pistons, we're just going to push one side in, and then the other side, and then the other side, and then the other side. They will fight against each other, but eventually they will go back in. I'm struggling because they're quite hard to push. There, they're both going back in lovely. That's definitely enough room for me to put new brake pads in now. And when I push the brake again, they'll come forward and everything will be reset. So there we go. That's my pistons cleaned and then reset. No dirt gone beyond the seal itself. So I'm happy with that. So the caliper rails, there's one here, there's one here. They've been cleaned and dried. The next thing I need to do is lubricate them. I'm going to use Ceramaseal. It's non-oil based because oil will perish the rubbers. That's the last thing we want to do, is perish the rubbers. So we're just going to put a thin layer on, and that will help lubricate the caliper so it slides easier. I'm going to lubricate the front one as well. Just a light rubbing. And the only other one we need to lubricate is the pin when we replace it. There. So that is lubricated lovely. Now we can put back together our caliper. Everything's cleaned, everything's looking good. This job needed doing because my bike has got so dirty over the last 12 months. I've been on some real dirty tracks. So we're just going to locate the two slide rails. And like I say, this Ceramaseal is rubber protectant, so we're not going to ruin our rubber covers. If you used oil, then it would. There we go. That's sliding in and out. Lovely. The only thing we have to do now is to reattach the rubber covers to stop them showing a gap. You just push them over and push them over a lip. This is our top rail of our caliper. This is our protective rubber. You can see the metal. If I push the caliper closed, see how it slides in and out? That's what we want it to do. And if I really give it some force and push it, that rubber now has reattached to itself, giving dirt protection, which is what we want. And that's the lower rubber has reset itself also. To remove them, you just put your screwdriver in and pop them out and just push, and they lock again. So you definitely need those rubbers connected. Do not put any oil anywhere near these rubbers because they will perish, they will go, and then you're going to get dirt into your caliper all the time, and that is going to cause you problems. Sadly, this is all we have time for today. So next week will be the front wheel removal and replacement, and also the front brake pad replacement. So stay tuned. Next week, part 3, this will be our last episode on our brakes. Hopefully you found today's information useful, especially those replacement brake pad numbers. As always, thanks for watching, and until next time, ride safe.